When Silent Hill F was first announced and I saw the trailer, I was stoked. It seemed like the franchise was going to be in good hands. After playing the Silent Hill 2 remake, I was even more excited to play F. I couldn't wait to see which direction the series was going to go. Well, after picking up and playing through F, all I can say is, what the hell did I just play? This was not Silent Hill. Not even a little bit. The atmosphere, the story, the characters, nothing. Let's start with the obvious, the story. I can't tell you the number of times throughout my playthrough I had to ask myself, what the hell is going on? Is Hinako dead? Is she alive but this is all just going on in her head? Why does the story seem more like a teenage romance drama than an actual survival horror? Is this all just like a revenge fantasy due to some past trauma? I really have no idea what is happening here. It's bad enough that the main plot of the story, being about a girl coming to terms with an arranged marriage, doesn't exactly scream traumatic, at least not to the point of summoning evil entities to plague her, but then there was the whole backplot of the two ancient family clans going to war with each other. Like, what is going on in this story? After playing the game and going through lore videos and reading posts on the story to try to make sense of what was going on, I liked the game even less after I found out what the actual plot was. I'm not going to go into the story because 1, it's not that great as it's way too convoluted than it needed to be, and 2, there are plenty of other videos out there that break it down far better than I ever could. But as someone who doesn't know anything about Japanese folklore, I really didn't get it. But looking at it another way, F was really a character-driven story, and I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons I couldn't really get into the game. I don't know if they were trying to create a new version of Heather with Hinako, who was a victim of circumstance that gets dragged into a twisted world, but it doesn't work. For one, Heather was used as a sacrifice in a childbirth ritual to birth a demon god, and then she was later reborn to be forcibly impregnated by the same cult to birth another god. Heather has to come to terms with the murder of her father as a teenage girl and then confront the person who did it, and that person was her ex-best friend. It's some pretty intense and messed up stuff. Hinako is worried about losing her identity as she's forced to be in an arranged marriage. Now I get it, I'm not a teenage girl in rural Japan in the 1960s, so I really can't relate to this, but I don't think many teenage girls can relate to being used in a cult sacrifice either. Hinako is just not interesting. Anyways, Hinako's got this weird friendship with this guy named Shu, who, after a while, I wanted to punch after hearing him call Hinako partner in every sentence. He's her friend and drug dealer or something. Then there's her friend Rinko, who seems like the chick from The Ring. She's like this damsel in distress that seems to have it out for Hinako for some reason or other. Then there's the final friend, Sakako. She doesn't really do much other than die, so she's kind of useless. And I guess that's really why I didn't understand why her friends play such a prominent role in the game. It didn't really make any sense. Her friends aren't really her friends, and they're just kind of acting that way. But it's clear that Hinako's biggest struggle is having to cut ties with them, or at least one of her biggest struggles. My problem isn't that they're there, it's just how they're utilized. There's like this big scene with Rinko pushing Hinako down the stairs, and then when Hinako recovers, they all just kind of move on like nothing happened. So it's kind of hard to see why there's a struggle when the relationships just don't seem to really matter. In Silent Hill 4, Homecoming, and even in Silent Hill 2, you travel with people, but they have a purpose for being there. In Silent Hill 4, Eileen is paramount to the story. Her fate affects the endgame, and she can help you fight. In Silent Hill Homecoming, Deputy Wheeler is pretty useless, but at least he guides you through some areas and helps you fight enemies in others. And in Silent Hill 2, protecting Maria is also critical because she's a manifestation of James's desires, and again, it affects the outcome of the game. Hinako travels around town with her friends, but they're never together even though they're going to the same places. Her friends can see the monsters and be affected by the environment, but they don't help you fight. They don't help you navigate the world, and they don't affect the outcome of the game. There's Hinako's relationship with her family. Her father is an abusive alcoholic, and her mother is a doormat who allows herself to be abused and never stands up for herself. At least that's the way it's portrayed. Only later, when we find out what's really going on to make her father that way, do we really get a full understanding of the big picture. However, It's just a small piece in the background that you could easily miss if you don't pay attention, or you're not a dork who wastes their time watching lore videos like me. Then we have her sister Junko, who I'm not really sure what the hell is going on with her. I guess she's supposed to represent the part of Hinako that wants to submit to the marriage, as Junko did in her own marriage. We don't really know how good of a marriage she's in, but I think the fact that she's in a marriage she was forced into, whether it was good or bad, is all irrelevant to Hinako. It's the loss of personhood that scares Hinako the most, which is why her sister is portrayed more of as an antagonistic character. Finally, we have Tsuneki Kodayuki. He's the Fox Man, but he's not just a regular guy. He's a boy that Hinako knew that got bit by a fox and then became possessed by the fox's spirit. He basically falls in love with Hinako and tries to force her into marriage, which she then rejects at the true ending of the game. It's stated in notes that Hinako and him exchanged letters frequently, and eventually she ran away from home to be with him. As the possessed nine-tailed fox, he tries to prepare Hinako for marriage, but his idea of love is to dominate every aspect of her life, giving her no freedom or individuality. Character-wise, I'd say this is pretty meh. Originally, since there are 4 teens, Hinako, Shu, Sakako, and Rinko, I thought the game was going to set them up to be tied to the 4 families that are heavily discussed in Silent Hill Homecoming. Since this game is heavy with themes revolving around living up to expectations and forced marriages, this would have been a great origin story for the town of Silent Hill, with the 4 of them being married off, but making a pact together that gets passed down through the generations. Instead, we get whatever this was. Let's talk about the music next. Akira Yamaoka makes his comeback to the Silent Hill franchise, and I was really excited he did. After Daniel Lick's Garbage and Downpour, I was excited to hear what Yamaoka had in store. It was really nice hearing the industrial sounds mixed in with ambient music, which brought a much-needed intensity back to the franchise. However, the music as a whole just wasn't that exciting. It wasn't bad by any means, but it was just kind of blah. There was nothing memorable about the soundtrack. There's a standard track that plays whenever an enemy approaches, and it's the same track that plays in several cutscenes. There's no Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, no tracks that really inspire any sort of emotion. Maybe it's because I'm used to the Silent Hill franchise having bangers like Room of Angel, ORT, basically the entire Silent Hill 2 soundtrack, that I had such high expectations. Even Homecoming, despite all its flaws, still had some memorable tracks like the Scarlet boss fight. So, characters meh, music meh, maybe the gameplay could make up for it? Short answer, no. Long answer, definitely no. The game took the dynamic camera from Homecoming and doubles down on it. There's no fixed cameras, so there are very few surprises. There's no radio, so the suspense isn't there either. It plays more like an action game. Ironically, before I started playing Silent Hill F, I had been playing Dying Light the Beast, so imagine my disappointment in finding out that the combat in F was basically like Dying Light. I mean, seriously, what the hell were the developers thinking by making the combat nothing but button mashing, complete with counters and dodge mechanics that regain stamina? Is this survival horror or a Souls game? And don't even get me started on the whole Soul Siphon mechanic too. The only thing that was missing was a rage bar. The idea that Hinako is running around with a grafted beast arm is absolutely absurd. They really could have called this Silent Hill the Beast. The combat itself is in typical Silent Hill fashion, clunky. I wasn't expecting it to be anything special, but for a game that is fairly combat heavy, it could have been much better. The weapon system is about as bad as it was in Downpour. Weapons break easily. A few hits with some weapons and they're pretty much useless. You can clog up your inventory with toolkits or just hope you find a new weapon. Either way, the weapon system is incredibly obnoxious. Speaking of inventory and items, this is another part of the game that was poorly designed. Having a limited inventory wouldn't be such a terrible thing, but instead of just having health drinks and health potions, there's like 5 different types of health items. Then there's toolkits, offerings, items to raise your stamina or sanity, or a combination of both. It's ridiculous. I'm not sure what the thought process was behind this, but there was no reason for it. Then to make things worse, if you swap items for new ones, the old ones disappear for good. The biggest letdown for me though in this whole mess of a game was the atmosphere. This game felt more like a mashup between Elden Ring and Fatal Frame than Silent Hill. Many of the sound effects for F sounded identical to the ones from the Fatal Frame series. Even the overlay and heads-up display was reminiscent of Fatal Frame. Then there's F's version of the Otherworld, a place referred to as the Dark Shrine. In the original Silent Hill games, the Otherworld was horrifying. It was twisted and dark. The Dark Shrine is just a shrine with candles. It's not twisted, it's not creepy. In fact, it looks like a pretty well-maintained place. Sure, there's the shock horror of the rituals, but whatever. That was more just over-the-top brutality than unsettling creepiness. There's really not much to say about the atmosphere. It just didn't feel like Silent Hill. In general, throughout the game, other than a few references to the original series like White Claudia and PTV, there's no real reason it's even called Silent Hill. I could see if the developers said it took place in the same universe or used the references as Easter eggs. I mean, I could at least understand that, but to call it Silent Hill and have almost no Silent Hill-ness in it, that's at least clickbait and at worst a desperate cash grab. The enemies are a mixed bag. They are a little creepy, not gonna lie. The fog monster, I guess, is supposed to be like this game's Pyramid Head. And there's basically 4 types of enemies with a few variations with them. The enemies are everywhere, and running away from them doesn't do much help since they follow you around quite a bit. All of the enemies are contorted and twisted up, I guess to symbolize being controlled or tied more to Japanese folklore. As a side note, can the Silent Hill franchise please put Pyramid Head to bed? I don't know who needs to hear this on the development team, but we do not need more Pyramid Head type monsters anymore. We do not need to see a giant monster that represents the main character's emotional state stalking them for the entire game and then have a showdown at the end. Just stop. You will never create anything like the original, so stop trying. And also, literally no one is asking you to. No one wants to see a new version of him every game. Please, for the love of all that is holy and good, come up with something else. As you can probably tell, there was just so much of this game that I just couldn't bring myself to care about. About halfway through, I found myself just wanting to finish the game to get it over with. There were so many little things that irritated me. Simple things, like instead of being able to go up to a door and checking if it opens, you have to position yourself just so the button indicator pops up. Puzzles that lasted like 5 or more rounds, like the box puzzle or the scarecrow puzzle. After 3 rounds, I get the point, but it just keeps dragging out. Anyways, that's really all I can say about this game. I'm just hoping I can save someone from spending $70 on a game that, without the Silent Hill name, would cost about $9.99 or be a free game in a few months on PS Plus. But hey, maybe you like this game. Maybe you have a drug problem like Hinako. I don't know, but in any case, I guess this is just a rant from me. I hope you were at least amused. If this is the direction the Silent Hill series goes, I'm not sure how successful it'll be. The short message was also kind of a letdown for me too, so while the Japanese lore part seems cool, it's a bit confusing to someone who knows nothing about Japanese culture, but then again, that's more of a me problem than anything. Now, before anyone says anything, I am not one of those people that is just bitter about the series taking a new direction. I think trying new things is a good thing, but it has to be done right. All game series have a certain atmosphere that you expect from them when you play it. When you play a Mario game, it feels like a Mario game, whether it's 2D or 3D, or even if it's a racing game with the Mario characters. It has a certain feel to it. You can't tell me with a straight face that Silent Hill F maintains any of the things that make Silent Hill what it is. In hindsight, other than completely gutting the game and redoing it, I'm not sure what little things you could tweak to make it better. The game just didn't work. And before you go all, it's because it's a female main character, isn't it? No, that's not the case. In fact, Heather is one of the best protagonists ever, and was great in 3. It's more that none of the characters are interesting, and Hinako has nothing compelling about her at all. If you love this game, I'd love to hear why. Maybe I'm totally missing something. If you thought it was okay, but could be better, what would you change? Or maybe you're like me and thought this game totally missed the mark, and in a year or two, it'll just be another dead-end entry in the dying Silent Hill series.